I knew they never reviewed my code. That was the only way I could have pulled it off for nearly a year. 11 quiet months, stained with coffee, spent nodding through pointless syncs, delivering my weekly reports 3 days late, and letting my name hover like dust bunnies at the bottom of the team's project board. Bella, always behind. Bella, probably not suited for a fast-paced environment. Bella, a soft-spoken woman amidst a sea of brash ex-frat brothers named Chad, all high-fiving over minor bug fixes. No one ever questioned why my updates lagged, or how the campaign data always seemed to miraculously correct itself every time our overnight processing batch messed up, or how the quarterly reports for the CEO, perfectly filtered and formatted, always originated from an unknown system. That was me, every time. Not that they noticed. Heaven forbid they actually paid attention. My workstation was tucked away in the furthest corner, past the flickering neon sign, beneath a ceiling tile that dripped when it rained. I preferred it that way, out of sight, out of micromanaged hell. I'd sit there in silence, sipping lukewarm green tea, pretending to craft marketing scripts from scratch, while I was actually rebuilding their entire digital infrastructure from the ground up, one automated task at a time. It began small. A silly lead sheet merger that used to consume Frank's entire Tuesday afternoon. I automated it one weekend out of sheer boredom. Frank never even noticed. He just muttered, "Huh?" That finished faster than usual, and crammed a granola bar into his mouth as if the taste of mediocrity was comforting. Then came the internal ad spend logs, then the conversion parser, then the data normalizer, which I built as a joke because Blake, our shiny new manager, once claimed normalization was just a fancy term for sorting things. Every line of code I wrote resided on a separate, secluded server, pushed to a local repository no one else could access. Bella Forge 001, Bella Forge 00002. By the time I hit 038, I lost count. That server, tucked away behind an obsolete machine no one ever touched, they thought it was retired. I wanted them to think that. To access it, I used a private terminal shortcut, disguised as a system performance widget, a plain gray box, no icon, boring enough to be ignored. Double-click, type salt, and I was in my own universe, my true occupation. Because what they actually paid me for at Velocity Digital wasn't what I was doing. They paid me to clean data, click buttons, and endure meetings where Chad lectured me about how SQL wasn't real programming. What I did was engineer an AI-powered orchestration layer that could ingest raw vendor data, validate it, tag it, route it, and generate a complete dashboard before most of the team finished their second donut. And I kept quiet about it, not out of humility, but out of strategy. I knew what this company did to people who appeared too clever. I witnessed them promote loudmouths who intentionally broke things just to heroically fix them. I watched them sideline quiet achievers who didn't conform to the culture. Culture in this place meant playing foosball while the analytics servers were crashing, and posting endless chat memes while genuine problems festered in the backlog. I was the antithesis of their culture. I was pure function. So I feigned ignorance, kept my head down, and let them assume I was slow. Every time Blake, or Chad, or any of those other vocal dolts scoffed about how Bella's still stuck on ticket 218, I simply smiled. Because I knew something they didn't. The only reason ticket 218 even existed was because my system had flagged it, and they had no clue. Blake sauntered into the office like a gust of unnecessary wind, loud, pointless, yet somehow convinced he was charismatic. He wore vests over t-shirts, like some Silicon Valley parody, possessed perfect teeth that screamed invisible braces and inherited wealth, and tossed around terms like synergy and leveraging bandwidth as if he was compensated per syllable. The moment he arrived, I knew I was in trouble. His first day, he did the HR guided tour, offering everyone insincere handshakes and good-to-meet-you platitudes, as if we weren't merely glorified data custodians for the company's digital waste. He reached my desk, the far back corner still damp from the weekend's leaky ceiling, and squinted at my screen as if it were a tray of expired sushi. "You must be Bella," he stated. "Not, 'Hi, Bella,' or 'nice to meet you.' Just, 'you must be,' like confirming a personnel file marked low output." He peered at my terminal window, black background, green text, my sanctuary, and chuckled. "Old school, huh? We'll get you on something a little more modern soon. No need to overcomplicate stuff." I smiled, without showing teeth. He moved on, but not really. Blake was one of those individuals who fixated on anything he didn't grasp, immediately deeming it either a threat or a joke. I wasn't boisterous. I didn't play office games. I didn't create social media videos in the break room with Ashley from marketing. So, naturally, I became his pet project. A week later, he called a team meeting, not the usual sit-down and yawn kind. This was a stand-up in the lounge area with donuts and good vibes kind. He wore his startup vest again, sleeves rolled to mid-forearm, as if about to perform an exorcism. "All right, team," he clapped. "We've got a new directive from leadership. Project Ascend, a complete overhaul of our client analytics platform. It's going to be massive, a rapid turnaround. 3 weeks to prototype, 6 to deploy." Everyone applauded like trained seals, except me, because I knew what Project Ascend was. I'd already built half of it 18 weeks ago. They were still trying to figure out how to install the latest analytics library. But Blake wasn't interested in the truth. He was interested in appearances. He assigned tasks like dealing cards. Chad got the lead developer role. Chad, who once mistook JavaScript for Java. Ashley got the testing matrix, even though she thought metrics was a type of exercise. "And me?" "Bella," he said, not looking up from his laptop. "You'll handle documentation. Keep a detailed log of everyone's progress. We need a paper trail." I stared at him. "I could build out the data ingestion pipeline. I already have." He raised his damn hand, as if I were a child interrupting story time. "We're starting fresh," he declared. "Don't want to inherit legacy mistakes." Legacy mistakes. That was me, apparently. My ears rang, my pulse throbbed in my jaw, but I smiled, nodded, and opened a fresh digital document titled Meeting Notes. I returned to my workstation, reopened my terminal, and spun up Bella Forge 043. If Blake wanted a war, I'd give him one. Not with tantrums, not with HR emails or performative chat messages. With silence. With scripts. Because the one thing Blake didn't know, and never even thought to ask, was this. Every single legacy mistake his shiny new project depended on was already running quietly, invisibly, perfectly, behind my command line. It began as a coping mechanism during my first week at Velocity Digital. The client data logs looked like someone had fed a blender 30 years of corrupted spreadsheets and hit puree. Nothing was structured, nothing matched. Time zones were inconsistent. File names were things like fuckrealnews03, final really, XLSX. One even just said, God help us, PDF. At first, I handled it manually, pulling the data, running macros, and painstakingly scrubbing it line by line, as if I were scraping barnacles off the hull of a sinking ship. Each day brought a new flavor of misery. By the second month, I stopped hoping for change. By the third, I started building my own damn life raft. I named it Phoenix. Phoenix wasn't flashy. No modern front end, no elaborate onboarding UI, just raw, elegant code written in Python, residing in the forgotten corner of the company's development server. It had no watchers on the code repository, no pull requests. I kept it locked under a second layer of security, known only to me. It started with basic sanitization. Phoenix would scan incoming client files, correct misaligned columns, apply schema logic I'd written myself, and reject files that didn't pass validation. Then, it grew smarter. I gave it a natural language layer, rudimentary at first, trained on actual client correspondence. It could categorize clients by sentiment and urgency. I even taught it how to autofill missing data fields based on historical behavior. Next came formatting. Phoenix learned how to wrap the clean data into company-approved report templates, not just basic summaries, but full, boardroom-polished PDFs with graphs, annotations, and projections, the kind our analysts used to spend 3 days building. Phoenix did it in 20 seconds. I never told anyone. I didn't need to. Instead, I constructed a mirror world. While they haphazardly coded and panicked in the actual environment, I deployed Phoenix in Shadow, quietly running the same reports as the official team, cross-checking every result, watching, waiting. Phoenix never failed. It ran cleaner, faster, more accurately than anything they had in production. The developers would stumble into the war room with wrinkled shirts and over-caffeinated breath, boasting about how they had finally resolved the marketing campaign attribution issue. Meanwhile, Phoenix had resolved it 9 days earlier. It was already routing the corrected format through the internal archive. Sometimes I considered subtly inserting a report into the main system, just one, just to witness the fallout. But I didn't, because I knew the moment they saw what Phoenix could do, they'd either claim credit or shut it down. Besides, observing them flounder while I effortlessly floated 6 inches above the waterline, that was far more satisfying than any acknowledgement. Then, one Thursday, Blake sauntered up to my desk, a large coffee in one hand and an aura of self-importance in the other. "Bella," he said, leaning in, "I've noticed you're falling behind again. Think we'll see something functional from you by next week?" I minimized my terminal. Behind it, Phoenix was executing 6 recursive test cycles on malformed client input. "Of course," I replied. He squinted. "What exactly are you working on?" I gestured to a dummy flowchart I kept open for precisely this reason. Boxes labeled Client Input Review, Node Approval Gate. "Still documenting pipeline logic," I stated monotonously. "Don't want to miss any legacy dependencies." He smiled, as if he understood. He didn't. "Good," he said. "Stick to that. Don't worry about dev stuff." He walked away. I reopened my terminal and typed Run Phoenix, PI Shadow Log. Phoenix responded instantly. Status, all systems operational. Output, 0 Zend. 26 seconds later, a pristine financial report blinked onto my screen. Blake's name was on the approval line. I sipped my tea and let it steep. Let them think I was slow. Let them think I was lost. Because I wasn't behind. I was already miles ahead, so far ahead they couldn't even perceive me anymore. It happened on a Monday, because of course it did. The kind of Monday where the coffee machine was out of beans, the office air conditioning was stuck on Arctic tundra, and everyone was pretending to care about sprint goals as if we weren't just patching together code to hit an arbitrary deadline. Blake stood at the front of the conference room as if he were unveiling the moon landing. His laptop was hooked to the big screen, which displayed a slide titled Project Ascend Launch Status and Bottlenecks. You can already guess who the bottleneck was. He let the slide linger there for a good 10 seconds, a dramatic pause Blake adored. "Let's be honest," he said, pacing like a motivational speaker. "This project should have hit QA last week, but we've had setbacks. Mainly legacy code that hasn't been transitioned properly. Bella, can you speak to that?" Every head turned. My stomach didn't lurch. My heart didn't pound. I simply blinked and looked at him as if he were a poorly written SQL query. "I've submitted all documentation I was assigned," I stated calmly. He smiled, a tight, feigned smile. "Right, but you were also asked to assist with the client pipeline. And from what I hear, you've been slow to engage." I wanted to laugh, truly. Slow to engage? I had built the damn thing from scratch. I had logs, timestamps, output files, and a system that was already silently outperforming their half-baked mess. But none of that mattered. Not here, in a company like ours. Truth isn't currency. Optics are. I didn't appear like a hero. I looked like an afterthought. The quiet woman in the corner who never joined happy hour and wrote code as if it were Morse code from a bunker. I was told to focus on documentation, I reiterated. Blake nodded, feigning sympathy. And maybe that's the problem. You've been siloed too long, Bella. Maybe this just isn't the right environment for you anymore. There it was, the kill shot. HR was already in the room. A woman from Employee Wellness, Susan or something like that, had been sitting near the back, pretending to check her email. Now she perked up, clipboard ready, smile preloaded. "We'll take it from here, Blake," she said, all sugary sweetness. I didn't speak, didn't flinch, just stood up slowly while the rest of the team looked everywhere except at me. Chad stared at his fingernails. Ashley developed an incredibly sudden interest in her keyboard. No one said a word. No one asked if this was fair. Some even looked relieved. The thing about being quiet is people assume you don't feel betrayal. But I did. I felt every ounce of it, filing it away like corrupted data, indexing it. They escorted me to HR, the conference room version, with plush chairs and tissues on the table, as if tears were a mandatory part of the exit form. "We're going to move forward with termination," Susan said. "But you'll receive a standard severance package, provided you sign the NDA. I skimmed the form. Standard clauses: don't disparage the company. Don't retain proprietary material. Don't mention Project Ascend. I signed, took the check, and walked out like a ghost, but not before one final request. "Please submit any project files you've been working on," Susan said, "just so the team can pick up where you left off." "Of course," I replied. That night, I uploaded a zipped folder labeled Ascend Bella Final. Inside were 4 files, an empty spreadsheet, a corrupted PDF, a presentation of cat memes, and a text file that read, "Good luck." I encrypted it all with a password, "Let me go." I clicked send. Then I logged into the private server one last time. I ran Phoenix's cleanup script, flushed every shadow log, every key, wiped the backups, nuked the repository. All gone. In my final message to Blake, I wrote only one sentence. "I trust you'll manage fine without me." I meant it, because now I wasn't just leaving. I was taking their future with me. The morning after they cut me loose, I woke up at 9:43 a.m. No alarm, no chat pings, no calendar invites titled Touchbase or Quick Sync that somehow devoured an hour and a half. Just silence. For the first time in years, I could hear the world again. The hum of my refrigerator, birds outside the window. My own breathing, not the frantic ticks of sprint cycles or bug reports. I made tea, real tea, not the watery garbage from the break room coffee maker. I watched it steep without refreshing my inbox, even once. Then I powered up my laptop and began the purge. VPN credentials gone, encrypted shell keys deleted, access tokens revoked. Phoenix, still alive, but now in cold storage, zipped, duplicated, sitting on an offline SSD inside a fireproof box in my hall closet. The company's server, I left it clean, empty, not malicious, not vengeful, just absent, as if I had never been there. My old terminal shortcut, the invisible widget disguised as a system monitor, I dragged it to the corner of my screen, hovered for a moment, then clicked remove. No ceremony, just closure. And then I opened a browser window and typed Freelance Tech Consultant Enterprise Automation. Every site that appeared looked like it had been designed by someone's cousin in 2013, but it didn't matter. I wasn't seeking flash. I was seeking freedom. I registered a new domain, bellaforge.io. I kept it simple. I help companies do more with less by building systems that don't break. Below that, I added workflow automation, data pipeline optimization, custom reporting engines, technical strategy consulting. No fluff, no testimonials, just proof. I posted anonymized benchmarks from Phoenix. Latency drops, error reduction, report turnaround times, real numbers, the kind that speak louder than online recommendations. By noon, my first cold email was sent. By 3, I'd drafted 5 proposals. By 7, I was sipping Pinot Noir and watching Contact on Netflix like it was sacred text. And somewhere back in that fluorescent mausoleum they called an office, everything was starting to unravel. Of course, they didn't realize it at first. The scripts I'd handed over did nothing. There was no pipeline, just placeholder macros and broken formulas. But bureaucracies don't fail with a bang. They rot slowly, like fruit on a shelf. Their first clue came 2 days later. A junior developer posted in the company's internal chat channel. Anyone know why the client reports are blank today? Tried running ingestion, nothing's processing, no response. Then Blake chimed in. Bella had it covered. She's gone now. Did anyone get her notes? Followed by, what system was she even using? Silence. They had built an entire launch plan around code no one understood, running on infrastructure no one had touched. Because I had touched it. Because I was it. By the time they started realizing they'd been flying without a pilot, I was already outlining service tiers for my new consulting site. Basic automation package at $15,000. Custom integration suite at $145,000. A little bold, but so was building their entire system behind their backs. I didn't need revenge, not yet. All I needed was distance, a view of the wreckage from somewhere quiet. I poured another glass of wine and refreshed their public code repository. Last commit, 4 days ago, quick fix for ingest errors. Please work. It didn't, and I didn't say a word. It took 5 days for the cracks to show, 10 for them to splinter. 2 weeks, and the walls were bleeding. From the outside, it probably looked like business as usual. But inside the company's internal systems, there was chaos disguised in khakis. Manual file merges, broken formulas, spreadsheets uploaded with missing headers, corrupted metadata that no one could trace. By day 12, the daily client reports went from pristine to patchwork, formatting errors, totals off by thousands, wrong dates, duplicate entries. Chad, now somehow leading the dev team, started patching things like he was playing whack-a-mole with a blindfold. Every fix broke something else. Every new solution came with a frantic chat thread that ended in, "Does anyone remember what Bella was doing here?" But of course, no one did, because no one ever asked. Blake, meanwhile, kept insisting nothing was wrong, just some transitional hiccups, he said during the Monday stand-up. Bella's stuff wasn't usable anyway. Legacy spaghetti. Legacy spaghetti. I nearly choked on my coffee when I saw the transcript someone leaked to me. But the real fun started when they opened their mouths. Buried deep in a project comment thread, probably not meant for wider eyes, was this nugget. We noticed a deactivated process tagged Bella Util was running nightly with elevated permissions. It was pushing to the same output path our current tools are using. Might explain the sudden failures post-termination. Boom! The truth was starting to sweat through the walls. Of course, Blake downplayed it. Just some old automation artifact. We've moved beyond that. He hadn't. He just had no idea what that even was. Then it happened. My inbox pinged from Blake. Keating at Velocity Digital. Com. Subject, quick question re-reporting structure. No greeting, no context, just this. Hey Bella, super quick. You remember where the ingest script archived historical client files before upload? Can't find the backup path, let me know, thanks. He sent it from his personal Gmail 5 minutes later. Then a follow-up an hour after that. Hey, sorry to bother again. One of the QA guys said, "You had a background process that cleaned the merge queue. If that's something you left behind, can you tell us how to re-enable it?" No apology, no ownership, just a guy digging in the rubble and realizing the house was made of ghost bones and duct tape. I didn't answer. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't owe him a damn thing. I closed the tab and went back to working on a client demo, my first paying prospect, a mid-sized logistics firm trying to untangle their inventory pipeline. They wanted faster reporting, cleaner data. They had no idea what they needed, but I did. I was building them something better than Phoenix. Modular, lighter, smarter. And while I spun up that new system, I let Blake sweat. Let him pretend it was all under control while his developers screamed into the void and QA tried to duct tape performance indicators back together. Satisfaction didn't come from payback. Not yet. It came from knowing the collapse had already begun, and they still hadn't realized I was the only thing that ever held it together. The first truly desperate email came on a Sunday at 3:11 a.m. Subject line: urgent. Please respond. Bella, really need your help. If you have any version of the ingest script or client formatter from your time here, please send it over. We're hitting major delays and don't have a working replacement. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just something to get us through. We can compensate you for your time. Let's talk. I read it while eating toast in bed. Didn't even bother to open the body, just hovered over the preview pane and watched him unravel one subject line at a time. By Tuesday, he was offering hourly rates. We can loop you in as a short-term external consultant. No pressure. Just need the framework for that background process you wrote. Our team's happy to integrate it from there. No pressure. By Friday, the board was asking questions. Apparently, the new, fully rebuilt Ascend engine had missed 3 financial summaries in a row. Clients were threatening penalties. One of the company's oldest vendors flagged their report as unusable. Internally, morale cratered. Developers were working weekends. QA had started logging what they called phantom errors, bugs that couldn't be replicated, only watched in horror as they devoured clean inputs. Then someone did the one thing Blake prayed no one would. They actually read the code. A junior QA analyst, God bless whoever it was, going line by line on the last functional report before I left, found a call-out buried inside a formatting class from Bella Util's import sanitize vendor headers. There it was, in black and white, a direct import from my private module. The funny part? The developers had been running my scripts without realizing it. Phoenix had been calling itself recursively through scheduled tasks, quietly patching gaps in their junk code skeleton. When I wiped it all, the whole illusion collapsed. Whispers started threading their way through the office. She didn't just write code, she was the code. And then came the ping. LinkedIn. A message from someone I didn't recognize. Display name: David P. Profile: QA analyst, former colleague at Velocity Digital. Hey Bella, don't mean to overstep, but people here are freaking out. They're trying to patch everything, but no one knows how it worked. I found your module. Just wanted to say I'm sorry for how they treated you. It's messed up. No ask, no pitch, just honesty. That one. I replied to. Thanks, David. I know. Stay sane in there. Then I logged into bellaforge.io, clicked edit, and updated the tagline. It used to say, I help companies do more with less. Now it read, offering enterprise workflow automation for when your old systems finally give out. I added a new section to the homepage, specializing in vendor data optimization, pipeline engineering, human-free reporting systems, post-crisis automation recovery. Didn't name names, didn't have to. By nightfall, I had 4 new contact form submissions. One from a fintech startup in Boston, one from a shipping firm in Austin, one from a former competitor of my old company, and one with no name, just a Gmail and a message. We saw what happened. We're listening. Cold amusement bloomed in my chest. Let them sweat. Let them dig through backups and guess at logic they never bothered to learn. I wasn't hiding anymore. Now I was available. The message came in through my site's contact form, buried between 2 spam offers for offshore dev teams and one laughably bad pitch about turning my automation into an NFT. But this one was different. Subject: Your GitHub. Potential collaboration opportunity. From CTO at Vanguard Analytics. Hi Bella, I came across your GitHub portfolio after a colleague flagged your CLI parser repo. Elegant stuff. One thing led to another, and I landed on your site. We're building out a new automation framework for vendor intake and internal reporting. It's early, and we're cautious about scaling too fast without the right foundation. I'd love to hop on a quick call if you're open to consulting. We're not looking for magic, just something that works. Best, Ethan B. No buzzwords, no rockstar ninja disruptor nonsense. Just honest curiosity and a clear pain point. I replied within the hour. We set up a call the next morning. Ethan showed up on Zoom in a t-shirt, a whiteboard behind him full of tangled arrows and boxes labeled WTF is this, and fix this, or die. He walked me through their existing mess. Half-built ETL pipelines stitched together by junior contractors, JSON logs crashing every third run, spreadsheet reports exported manually by their operations lead at 2 a.m. I listened, took notes, asked questions that made his dev lead's eyebrows jump. Then I pitched them Phoenix's baby cousin, stripped down, containerized, no frills, no magic, just clean, repeatable ingestion, schema validation, and one-button reporting. 36 hours later, I had a contract. $12,500 retainer for Phase 1, $8,000 per sprint after that. No corporate email, no NDA leash, just code delivery and results. I signed, didn't even blink. That same day, a little bird from my old company, David P., the QA guy, slid into my inbox again. Blake's gone. Word is, he's on investigative leave pending a board audit. Apparently, some investors are pissed. There's a rumor he used your work in the pitch deck and called it his. I laughed out loud, actually laughed, a full-body shaking release I hadn't felt in years. Of course he did. Of course, the man who wouldn't let me touch real development tasks had no problem copy-pasting my code into a slideshow once he realized it worked better than anything his team produced. But this wasn't about revenge anymore. That used to be the fuel, watching him panic, watching the team scramble to replicate a ghost system they never respected. Now the fuel was purpose. I had clients. I had clarity. I had something real to build. Vanguard Analytics gave me access to a clean repository, full decision-making authority on architecture, and a weekly check-in where Ethan asked only one question: what do you need to go faster? That night, I spun up a fresh module, not Phoenix, something new. I named it Spectra. As the build logs filled the screen, quiet and beautiful and mine, I realized something. Blake had tried to erase me, minimize me, box me in as the legacy problem. But all he'd done, his condescension, his sabotage, his ignorance, was sharpen the blade. He didn't bury me, he polished me. And now, I was cutting through everything. It came in like a ghost, no subject line, no signature, just a plain text whisper in my inbox at 6:43 p.m. on a Thursday from Blake. Keating@gmail.com. Message: where are the backups, please, the board is asking. That was it. No hi Bella. No. Sorry for the humiliation, the gaslighting, the erasure. Just desperation stripped bare of ego and veneers. 4 words and a panicked return. And for the first time, he finally sounded honest. I didn't reply, didn't even mark it as read. Instead, I moved the window aside and refreshed the page I'd had open for the past 20 minutes. Vanguard Analytics Livestream Platform Launch Event. There it was, polished stage, soft blue uplighting, a modest crowd seated in sleek chairs arranged with startup feng shui. The camera cut to the CEO, Ethan, who stepped onto the platform with the easy confidence of someone who didn't have to bluff his way through a technical demo. He spoke for a while, thanked the investors, thanked the core dev team. Then came the part that mattered. And finally, he said, pausing with a smile, "We couldn't have launched this platform on time, under budget, and with a functional pipeline that's already processing at triple our previous capacity, without outside help. So I want to thank the person who architected the very foundation we're running on today." The camera panned to a screen behind him. My logo. Simple. Clean. Bella Forge Consulting. He continued, "Bella doesn't work in a tower. She doesn't throw buzzwords. She just builds things that don't break. And when you're trying to scale fast and not fall on your face, that's what matters." The audience applauded, not wildly, just enough, the right kind. I leaned back on my couch, wine in hand. Shiraz, not because it paired well with anything, but because it was the bottle I bought the day I signed the Vanguard Analytics deal, and promised myself I'd only open it when it felt done. This was done. No fireworks, no gotcha, no dramatic mic drop. Just the quiet satisfaction of watching a better machine hum while the old one collapsed in on itself. In a folder labeled Old Life, my final log sat archived and encrypted, untouched since the day I walked out of that beige-tiled hell. Phoenix, decommissioned. Bella Utils, obsolete. The entire system rewritten in my own language for people who knew how to listen. Somewhere, in a boardroom filled with red-faced men and panicked whispers, Blake was likely pacing, sweating, maybe even pointing fingers. Where are the backups? There were never backups. Only me. And now, I belong to no one. This story of Bella, the quiet performer, teaches us a powerful lesson. True value often operates beneath the surface. In many environments, especially those driven by superficial metrics and loud self-promotion, genuine talent and deep contributions can be overlooked or undervalued. However, this doesn't diminish their impact. Instead, it highlights the importance of silent mastery and strategic patience. Bella's journey shows that even when facing dismissal and disrespect, your skills and integrity are your most valuable assets. By quietly cultivating her expertise and building something truly robust, she not only survived, but thrived beyond the confines of a toxic workplace. The positive message here is one of empowerment and self-reliance. Don't let others' inability to recognize your worth define you. Use those moments of underestimation as fuel to refine your craft, build your own path, and ultimately create opportunities that align with your true potential. Your quiet competence can become your loudest statement. Focus on what you can control, your skills, your projects, your integrity, and trust that in time, your true contributions will speak for themselves, opening doors to a future where you are not just valued, but indispensable. You are the architect of your own success, even if the world around you is slow to catch on.